Well, our clutch is greased. We're ready to move on to the next phase of the maintenance. Let's take a look now under the hood. We're going to remove the motor cover by taking these two acorn nuts off. This again is the 13mm box wrench, the same tool we use to remove the fasteners on the chain stripper. Got one off. Acorn nut, again 8mm, followed by an 8mm flat washer and an 8mm nylon Delrin washer. Again, the Delrin washer is an insulator between the dissimilar metals. Little preventative device to avoid the electrolysis that will naturally occur between stainless and aluminum. We'll probably need to give it a little tap with a rubber mallet or dead blow hammer. Sometimes you need to give it a little persuasion. And off she comes. Don't have any critters living in there. It's clean. We inspect the gasket. Looks to be in very good condition for 9 years old. Some of the older windlasses you'll find don't have this flat style gasket. Rather, they have a detent groove that's channeled into the border of the motor cover. A round nitrile cord was used, a rubber cord was used to fill in that detent groove. Well, Lofrans has done away with that, and they've gone to this flat gasket. So if you have the old style, this gasket will work. You just need to fill with a little bit of silicone that detent channel in if you have an older style cover. These particular neoprene covers come with a self-adhesive backing, and they just stick in place. What do we have here? 3 terminals, a negative terminal on the center, and 2 positives. One dictates up, the other down. It's remarkable after 9 years that there is absolutely no corrosion on this. I didn't know what to expect when we pulled the cover off. If we were to have found that there was any corrosion on these terminals, we would get out our wire brush and we would remove all the corrosion. One thing we're going to check for is that nothing is loose and that these terminals don't wiggle like a loose tooth. These are sound. This is a good installation. Sometimes when we take these covers off, we find that the installer has attempted to rotate the cables up underneath these 2 long threaded studs, and that makes it much more difficult to put the cover back on. The proper way to route these cables is exactly as we see here, where they're routing aft to the rear end of the windlass, turning 90 degrees up and laying down on the terminal studs. That will allow us the clearance underneath to put this motor cover back on. In this particular case, I don't see any reason to go any farther. This motor is as dry as can be. Had we found corrosion, we would have sanded it and maybe hit it with a little bit of touch-up paint to retard any further corrosion process. All right, one of the things I wanted to point out before we put the cover back on, and it's not covered in the owner's manual, we often get calls on this, is what's the largest gauge cable that you can attach to the motor and allow the cover to go back on? Well, it's 2 gauge. Anything larger and this cover won't fit on.